All right, welcome everybody to the
Welcome.
May 2026 meeting of the Metropolitan Washington Old Time Radio Club. We are delighted to have so many people on the screen tonight. Some people I haven't seen for a while. And we have a visitor, Wayne Bonning, from the Boston area, who is a member of the Radio Collectors of America. He's going to talk to us about some ideas he has for possibly sharing resources between his club and our club. But for that, you will have to stay for the business meeting if you are a member. So we will hope that that is the case and that there is a nice turnout to find out what ideas he has. He's already mentioned one, which I think sounds excellent. So, also, welcome to the mothers in the club. Thank you for joining us on the beginning of this Mother's Day weekend, and we wish you a very happy Mother's Day on Sunday. So, without further ado, I am going to make Frank, where is Frank? Okay, I'm going to make Frank a co-host so he can enable our friend Karl to launch into the first 15. So, Karl, I know we checked Marcia's mic this afternoon and everything was great. So, take it away.
Hopefully everything's good now.
It is.
Excellent. And
Anytime you're ready.
as soon as Frank,
A little patter, fill it up a bit. No?
as soon as the the slide comes up, Frank.
Yeah, so you go back here a second.
Oh yeah, we're good.
Okay.
Yep, there we are. Okay, for this evening's first 15, I chose Nelson Olmstead story dramas. Nelson Olmstead was this was a one-person show. In radio, there were we're used to having casts of 5 or 10 or even 15 people, but there were several individuals, including Nelson Olmstead, Paul Frees, Charlie Long, Marvin Miller, and even Paul Barnes, who did one-person shows on radio where they played all the parts. Nelson Olmstead, he started radio way back in college when he was at University of Texas in Austin back in 1935. Moved to WBAP in Fort Worth in 39 and started his storytelling time there. As you see on the screen, over those 18 years, 19 years, almost two decades, he was involved in several programs. They went by different titles. And in 1940, he went from WBAP in Fort Worth to NBC in Chicago. He became a dramatic actor and storyteller there and really hit it in the big time. The story I'm going to be talking about or playing tonight, if you can go to the next slide, is Seeds of Destruction from 1947, and I'll explain all the participants after the audio.
Someone once said, "There's nothing more fearful at times than a strange imagination." Hello, this is Nelson Olmstead. Gerald Kirsch is one of England's outstanding writers. Occasionally, his short stories are published in American magazines, and the one I want to tell you today is his most recent. It's about a strange old antique dealer who invented a rather terrifying myth around a cheap piece of junk he had in his shop. It's entitled Seed of Destruction. I always maintained that Mr. Ziska deserved to get on in the world, if only on account of the extraordinary richness of the lies he told. He started as an antiquary and jeweler in a small way of business, buying and selling all kinds of valueless rubbish, cameo brooches, Indian bangles, and job lots of semi-precious stones. I used to let him sell me knickknacks, for which I had no earthly use, just for the sake of a sales talk. For in Mr. Ziska's stuffy little shop, a paste brooch was not simply a paste brooch. It was, as he always explained, an item of a very special sort. It had been worn by Dr. Crippen's wife. It had been found in the stomach of an ostrich. It had fooled an Indian Maharaja. He nearly persuaded me once that a rusty old Spanish knife with a broken point was the fatal knife used by Charlotte Corday when she stabbed Marat in his back. It was a left-handed knife, he explained. Unique, he said. Amazing opportunity. Valuable historic relic, dirt cheap. 5 pounds? No. 4 pounds 15 shillings? No. 4 pounds? Not at any price? Pity to see a friend missing such a bargain. Then, what about this valuable old meerschaum pipe bitten through at the mouthpiece? This was the pipe Emile Zola smoked while he was riding Nana. Look, crumbs of tobacco still stuck in the bottom of the bowl. A literary man should not fail to snap up this sacred relic. To anybody else, 5 pounds. To you, 35 shillings. No? And so he ran on. He always got me in the end, so that I still possess Lord Byron's eyeglass, Beethoven's paperweight, a rusty spearhead which belonged to Richard the Lion-Hearted, and a brass ring bearing the signs of the zodiac and guaranteed to bring good luck. I have never been able to give the things away. He had what you call personal magnetism, that funny little man. As he talked, he glared into your eyes and screwed his face into frightful grimaces. He wore an antiquated frock coat, which, he once told me, had been the property of Richard Wagner, and he never let himself be seen without a pink orchid in his frayed buttonhole. He was irresistible. It was Mr. Ziska who invented the incredible legend of the Seed of Destruction. He made it up in the spur of the moment. There was something of the artist in Mr. Ziska. He was tired of telling the same old story about how the shoddy little rings and pins that he sold would bring good fortune to the ladies and gentlemen who wore them. So he struck a new note. He had an inspiration. It had come to him in a flash. I was there when it happened. He had stopped trying to sell me Charles Dickens' favorite gold toothpick and had taken from the tray a gold ring set with a spinel seal as big as my thumbnail, clumsily engraved with a bit of inscription in Arabic. He stood there, blinking at it. I could see he was trying to think of something fresh. And so I said, "The seal of King Solomon, no doubt." He blinked at me and smiled shyly and said, "No, this is not the seal of Solomon. This, my friend, is known as the Seed of Destruction. It brings good luck, I suppose." "No, my friend, that is very wrong. It does not bring good luck, it brings bad luck. That's why it is called the Seed of Destruction. It brings very bad luck indeed. The inscription says, it's the destiny of man to be in trouble. If you're rich, it will make you poor. If you're healthy, it will make you ill. If you're alive, it will soon be the cause of your death." See? It was cut by a magician, an Arabian magician, very bad man indeed, for an Arab prince in the days of Saladin. The magician put a spell on it, a shocking spell. This ring is absolutely certain to bring bad luck, not good luck, bad luck. I personally guarantee it. A bargain. 25 pounds? You expect me to pay 25 pounds for that? And incidentally, it doesn't seem to have done you much harm. Come off it, Mr. Ziska. Come, no, listen and learn, young man. I've not told you how the enchantment works. This ring does no harm at all to the purchaser of it, not to the buyer, nor to the seller. I bought it, therefore it cannot hurt me. If you buy it, it cannot hurt you. But if you give this ring away, the most horrible misfortunes will fall upon the head of the person to whom you give it. Do you understand? That is the whole idea of the thing. It is obvious, can't you see? The Arab prince fell in love with the princess, but she loved another prince instead of him. So the prince paid the magician a lot of money to make this ring, and pretending brotherly affection, she placed it on her rival's finger. 3 days later, the rival was eaten by a lion. But the princess, poor girl, went to bed and died of a broken heart. And so the prince, who was sorry for what he'd done, got the ring back and hid it away. But one of the eunuchs in the palace stole it. Well, what happened to him? Oh, it is equally unlucky to steal it. It must be bought and paid for. The eunuch was set upon by robbers. They cut his throat and stole the ring from him and sold it to a merchant in Aleppo. But they hadn't paid for it, so they were caught and had their heads cut off. But the merchant sold the ring to a young nobleman, so he was all right. He had bought and paid for it. The nobleman, who was trying to keep on the right side of his uncle, who was very miserly and wicked, gave him the ring for a present. And would you believe it? The same day, the wicked old uncle fell off a high roof and broke his neck. And the young nobleman inherited all his money. I could go on all day telling you what happened. 25 pounds? I haven't got any rich uncle, and I haven't got an enemy worth killing, and I haven't got 25 pounds. Perhaps you think I'm not telling you the truth. No. Yes, I can see you think I'm a liar. You're as good as calling me a liar to my face, and I treat you like a friend. I want to do you a good turn, sell you the famous seed of destruction for 25 pounds, and you as good as call me a swindler, a confidence trickster, a cheat. Very well. No, my dear Mr. Ziska, don't take it like that. Well, in order to mollify him, I had to buy a cracked china teapot, the one Shakespeare used when he was writing Hamlet. Well, later, I heard that Mr. Ziska had sold the seed of destruction to a thin lady who had dark circles under her eyes, which were swollen from weeping. He asked 50 pounds for it and got it. It was a fair price. The ring was worth 4 or 5, and the story, as he later elaborated it, was reasonably cheap at 45 pounds or so. I forgot about the whole affair until I was reminded of it by a sensational feature article in a Sunday paper. It was entitled Jewels of Death, and was composed of a little fact and a lot of fiction about famous unlucky gems. We've all read that sort of thing before. The article was illustrated with photographs of the great blue diamond, the bloody ruby of Cawnpore, the Peruvian emerald, and, last of all, the seed of destruction. This strange spinel seal, it appeared, had a sinister history. Mr. Ziska's story was there, more or less as I'd heard it when he concocted it in his shop. The article went on to say that the seed of destruction had been discovered by the ill-fated Mrs. Mace in an obscure and nameless little cheap jewelry shop. Mrs. Mace, believing in the mysterious virtue of this terrible gem, had given the ring to a faithless lover who was surprised by her jealous husband 2 days later and beaten to death with a sculptor's mallet. Mrs. Mace sold the seed of destruction to a morbidly curious London businessman who, having given his word of honor that he would never give the ring away without receiving payment for it, conveniently forgot his promise and gave it to his partner with a friendly slap on the back. Less than an hour after he put the ring in his finger, the hapless partner was run over and instantly killed by a heavy truck. It's true that he was under the influence of drink when staggering off the curb, but it looked very peculiar, one had to admit. He had never been run over before. The ring, together with his other effects, went to his heir, a worthless young man who squandered everything, forged 7 checks, was sent to prison, and died there of pneumonia. The pawnbroker, who by this time had the seed of destruction as an unredeemed pledge, sold it to an American for a considerable sum. The American added it to his collection of horrible curios. One evening, his daughter, who had been drinking bathtub gin with some friends, took the ring out of her father's private museum and put it on in drunken bravado. She defied the seed of destruction, said the writer of the article. The party went on, and the daughter, although she could hardly stand, insisted on taking out a high-powered roadster. She zigzagged at 70 miles an hour along the highway, miscalculated on a hairpin bend, and crashed. And that was the end of her. The bereaved father sold the seed of destruction for 1 penny to a dealer and embraced religion. Well, more than 2 years later, as I was whistling to a taxi in Piccadilly, an extremely elegant young man stopped me and said, "Excuse me, you're Mr. Kirsch, aren't you?" And I said that I was indeed. "I don't think you remember me. Does the name Ziska convey anything to you?" "My name is Ziska. Many a time I saw you in my father's shop." "Why, of course it conveys something to me. Surely you must be Ziska's son." We shook hands and shared a taxi. I asked young Ziska how his father was. He sighed and said, "Why, I've taken over the business, but I'll never be anything like he was. What a man he was, what a personality, what a businessman. But of course, you know, in our business we have to have good eyes. A jeweler who can't see straight might as well retire. Dad was marvelous. But about 5 years ago, his poor old eyes gave out on him. He got a cataract, had an operation, and he was never the same again. I took over. What a man he was. I dare say you remember that funny business about the seed of destruction." "Yes, I know, because I happened to be on the spot when your father made it up." Yes, I know. I wish I had half of the old man's imagination. I can't do it. It was his story that made that seed of destruction what it is today. He bought it for 50 shillings and sold it for 50 pounds. And now, well, I can speak to you freely because you're an old friend, it must be worth 5,000 pounds if it's worth a penny. I've been offered 4,000 pounds for it. Oh, have you got it then? Oh, yes. I bought it off a dealer for 3,000 pounds. I knew it would please the old man. He was a great guy. I wanted to give him a little surprise, so I brought this seed of destruction home and said to him, "You'll never guess what I've got." And then he asked me what I'd got, and I told him, and he was as pleased as punch. He was pretty sick, getting on in years, as I dare say you know. And I said to him, "Well, here you are, Dan. You invented it. You made it. You built it up. You worked miracles with it. You took a tuppenny halfpenny spinel and turned it into a property by your own genius. And here it is, worth a packet. I make a present of it to you." And then he asked me how much I'd paid for it, and I told him 3,000 pounds. And he sat up in bed with the ring on his little finger, and he shouted, "Oi!" and passed away. Heart failure, shock. It had cost him 50 shillings.
Scotty, thank you.
Sorry. Shaftesbury Avenue? Well, I get out here. Nice to have seen you again. Bye-bye.
This has been Gerald Kirsch's short story, Seed of Destruction, as told by Nelson Olmstead. And our closing word.
Well, this story by Gerald Kirsch appeared recently in Esquire magazine. I hope you've enjoyed hearing it. This is Nelson Olmstead saying goodbye and good reading.
Nelson Olmstead has presented another great short story from the world of literature. This is Red Feather Month in nearly 1,000 cities of America. By giving generously to his local community chest, every citizen can be sure that he is supporting, most wisely, the friendly, neighborly services that help his community day after day, month after month. To give generously to the community chest is to be a good neighbor. This is NBC, the national broadcasting company.
Now, you have to love those NBC chimes at the end of the program. So a little bit about our, excuse me, our three contributors here. Of course, Nelson Olmstead. Perhaps many of you recognize his photo there. He adapted this story himself. He did a lot of writing, and the total number of episodes that he did over those 18 years was probably close to 3,000. So if there's a favorite story of yours out there, whether it's from pulps or the Slick magazines or a book or anything at all, Nelson Olmstead probably adapted it from one of his story dramas. After that, he moved to New York and then to Hollywood and is involved with a lot of TV and films. Really a great character actor and really needs to be more well known in old time radio. His shows, which could be heard at any time of the day. In fact, this one from 1947, when it was originated from Chicago, it was on at 8:45 in the morning. which meant it was not on at 6:45 on the West Coast, 9:45 on the East Coast was all right. Competing with some of the soap operas and some of the other programs that are on daytime radio. But the program is heard as often as 11:15 or 11:30 at night, and NBC schedule it from once a week to 5 times a week. It's a variety. This program has not been really researched that well. But hopefully, with presenting this story today, that we get some of us interested in pursuing Nelson Olmstead's career. He was often accompanied by Lou Webb, who's a Chicago organist. Webb had been a former theater organist who had moved into Chicago in the 1920s and was very prominent. Had his own show and was on many different shows, NBC in Chicago. And then we see the author Gerald Kirsch, who originally wrote the story that appeared in Esquire in 1947. Kirsch is probably best known for Night in the City, which was adapted into a couple different films, and then also for his 1958 short story, The Secret of the Bottle, which won him an Edgar Award from the Mystery Writers of America. And let's move on to the final slide. There's audio available, not too many episodes, maybe 10 or 15 episodes are currently in circulation of any of the Olmstead series on radio. The usual suspects, the old-time radio researchers, and also radio echoes. There are scripts available. Wisconsin Historical Society has several from the early years, and then the Library of Congress has some of the later years. And I thought the critique was very interesting from 1946 after Olmstead had returned from serving in the military. The storyteller has a pleasant, scholarly radio personality. Smart editing and adaptation are easily apparent. I thought this was a very excellent series, and this episode in particular has many references to people and places that I'm sure many of you recognize. Wish to thank John Abbott and Frank Morgan for their technical expertise and be willing to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Karl. That was just outstanding. I'm sure some people have some questions. It was, in my opinion, a really delightful program to listen to. I particularly like the dry humor in it, in the writing. Anybody have any questions, curiosities, observations?
Well, I agree with what you said, Wendy.
Thank you. Well, it is really wonderful to see so many people on screen tonight. My goodness, this is a special treat.
They all wanted to learn about Nelson Olmstead.
I'm sure that was it. I'm sure they all went, Nelson Olmstead, we gotta watch
Who's that?
tonight. It's exciting. Let's tune in and find out.
What might we know about his TV appearances?
He was on many Deluxe Video Theater, Kraft, Schlitz. If there was a series that needed a dramatic actor, he was probably on it in some role. Elliot, I can't give you any specific episodes, but
Okay.
he was on all
I'll
of
look it
those.
up. He looks very familiar.
Yes, he does. Yep.
It's great. John Reiser, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I had a comment when I heard someone mention the theater organ in Chicago. I really perked up because my mother was a theater organist in Chicago in the late 1920s and the early 1930s. And she also played on WGN, WMAQ, and WLS at the various radio stations in Chicago that all had pipe organs for film music because the union required that all music be live, no recordings could be played. So all the theaters or all the radio stations had theater organists. And my mother was an organist in Chicago, and she played at the Chicago Theater and the other theaters in Chicago, as well as the radio stations there. So I really perked up when you mentioned theater organs in Chicago. It just rang a big bell.
Do you have any recordings of her playing on radio stations, John?
No, I don't, but I have some of the slides that she had when she would show it on the screens at the theaters.
Do you know what show program she was in? I mean, you can always look because many times, as you know, on this particular episode, the organist wasn't credited, but I knew it was Lou Webb. So perhaps your mother wasn't credited on some of these shows.
She could have been, but of course, by the 1930s, I mean, the talking motion pictures
Sounds
took
right.
over, so there was less need for theater organists at that time.
Right.
So she sort of retired from theater in Chicago in about 1930.
Wow. Okay. Interesting.
Great.
Great to know.
That
And-
almost, who's next here, I guess. I mean, that sounds like another show in itself. It'd be fascinating to see some of those slides, John, of your mother at the Chicago organs. If we could put it
Yeah.
together some way.
Oh, there's a presentation in the making, I
We're working
think.
on it.
Anne, I think the tile named Anne, but not.
No, it's Wayne, but I'm on my wife's computer.
I thought that was you, Wayne.
No, I'm not doing any transgender stuff.
Excellent.
Anyhow, I came in late, so I'm sorry I missed the front part of that wonderful, wonderful story. Jiminy Christmas, it was great. But when I heard the organ, I said to myself, that is not the typical Hammond electronic organ that was used in so many broadcasts. That was a real theater pipe organ.
Right.
And I can say that because I am a theater organist.
Oh, wonderful.
And I was going to say, the gentleman that his mother was the organist, if he is aware of the American Theater Organ Society, ATOS, because I'm sure that they would love to have any information that he could give to them. And you can find atos.org, atos.org, American Theater Organ Society. And we have chapters all around the country and around the world. But that's our national organization. I'm a board member of the chapter here in the Philadelphia area, TOSDV, Theater Organ Society of Delaware Valley.
Wow, that is great.
We have a wonderful 3-manual, 24-rank Wurlitzer theater pipe organ in the Colonial Theater in Phoenixville. And I'm supposed to do a program on June the 14th if health permits me. I don't know. I'll be 82 years old, so I'm getting to be an old fuddy-duddy organist here.
Oh, that's great. That is terrific. Richard, you have your hand up. But you're on mute.
Yeah, so John, if you would contact atos.org and talk to them, I'm sure that they would love to hear whatever information you could give to them.
Thank you for the tip. ATOS, okay.
Yes, I just want to point out that those first 11 notes played by the great organ were by Tchaikovsky, and it was Tchaikovsky's birthday yesterday. You may have recognized those notes as the opening of Tchaikovsky's fantasy Romeo and Juliet overture. Dun, 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 yum, bum, bum, bum.
Excellent.
Oh, boy.
Thank you, Richard. That is interesting as well. My goodness.
That
I
demonstrates.
bet I bet Carl did not anticipate such in-depth conversation of the organ.
I'm sure I did.
Of course you did.
What Richard said displays what the theater organist was really excellent at, taking some classical music and adapting it to silent movies or to radio programs. A lot of classical liturgical organists cannot do that. They're stuck in playing Bach the way Bach wrote it, and that's it. Theater organists had a lot more imagination and a lot more fun. We had bells, whistles, ooga horns, sirens, xylophones, drums, tambourines, castanets, rain machines. You didn't find any of that in a church.
Well, this was a dramatic
Oddly
opening.
enough.
a dramatic opening that drew you right into the show. So it was
Yeah.
excellent.
Well done. Anybody else? Any other questions, curiosities, observations, more thoughts on organs? Well, thank you so much, Karl. That was just terrific. Really great to see you. And to hear this, to be exposed to this show. I'd never even heard of it, but that probably exposes my ignorance rather than anything else at this point. So thank you so much.
Certainly.
That was just terrific. So now it is time. Where is the here it is. We are moving on to our quiz. And I believe a little bird told me that the quiz queen tonight is Kelly. Is that
Indeed.
true?
I am,
Yay,
I am
Kelly.
the May quiz queen. Yes, yes.
Yay, the May quiz queen. You may start the quiz.
Thank you. And my one a flaw I have as quiz queen is I never remember how to launch because I actually looked up how to launch the quiz and I don't see a polls
Do you
option.
see, no, do you see a button that says more? Or
Yes.
that has, try clicking on that.
Okay.
That should give you polls and quizzes.
I don't see polls and quizzes.
That's strange. That's where it is on mine. Well, would you like me to launch it then?
If you would, that would be great. Thank you.
Let's see if they'll let me do this now. Yes, and launch.
Yes.
Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, wonderful. Okay. And as always, thank you to Frank for the quiz. The theme of this one is first, last, and Mr. In Between. So, okay, so our questions, beginning with question 1. Al Hodge was the first to play the Green Hornet, and Jack McCarthy was the last. Who was the 18-year-old in between? Was it A, Mandel Kramer, B, Robert Hall, C, Bill Johnstone, or D, Fred Foy? And again, Al Hodge was the first to play the Green Hornet. Jack McCarthy was the last. Who was the 18-year-old in between? A, Mandel Kramer, B, Robert Hall, C, Bill Johnstone, or D, Fred Foy? Question 2. Agnes Moorehead was Lamont Cranston's first leading lady. Who was the last? Was it A, Betty Lou Gerson, B, Gertrude Warner, C, Grace Matthews, or D, Margot Stevenson? And again, Agnes Moorehead was Lamont Cranston's first leading lady. Who was the last? A, Betty Lou Gerson, B, Gertrude Warner, C, Grace Matthews, or D, Margot Stevenson? Question 3. Mary Lee Robb was the last to play Gildy's niece. Who was the first? Was she A, Louise Erickson, B, Piper Laurie, C, Shirley Mitchell, or D, Lorene Tuttle? Again, question 3. Mary Lee Robb was the last to play Gildy's niece. Who was the first? Was she A, Louise Erickson, B, Piper Laurie, C, Shirley Mitchell, or D, Lorene Tuttle? Question 4. Barton Yarborough was Joe Friday's first partner. Ben Alexander was the last. Which of the following was one of those in between? Was he A, Stacey Harris, B, Harry Morgan, C, William Conrad, or D, Martin Milner? Again, question 4. Barton Yarborough was Joe Friday's first partner. Ben Alexander was the last. Which of the following was one of those in between? A, Stacey Harris, B, Harry Morgan, C, William Conrad, or D, Martin Milner? Question 5. Larry Thor was the last to play Danny Clover when Broadway Is My Beat moved to L.A. Who was the first to play the role in New York? Was it A, Lawson Zerbe, B, Stats Cotsworth, C, Anthony Ross, or D, Frank Lovejoy? Again, Larry Thor was the last to play Danny Clover when Broadway Is My Beat moved to L.A. Who was the first to play the role in New York? A, Lawson Zerby, B. Stats Cotsworth, C. Anthony Ross, or D. Frank Lovejoy? Question 6. Military service took Ezra Stone from his role as Henry Aldrich. After the war, he returned to the role. Who filled in between for Stone? Was it A. Jackie Kelk, B. Sam Edwards, C. Norman Tokar, or D. Tommy Cook? Military service took Ezra Stone from his role as Henry Aldrich. After the war, he returned to the role. Who filled in between for Stone? A. Jackie Kelk, B. Sam Edwards, C. Norman Tokar, or D. Tommy Cook? Question 7. As Nero Wolfe, Sidney Greenstreet went through several Archie Goodwins during the show's short run. Harry Bartell was the first, Lamont Johnson was last. Who was Archie in between? Was it A. Gerald Moore, B. Herb Ellis, C. Larry Dobkin, or D. Wally Marr? And again, as Nero Wolfe, Sidney Greenstreet went through several Archie Goodwins during the show's short run. Harry Bartell was the first and Lamont Johnson the last. Who was Archie in between? A. Gerald Moore, B. Herb Ellis, C. Larry Dobkin, or D. Wally Marr? Question 8. Marlon Hurt was the first to play Beulah. Who was the last? A. Bob Corley, B. Amanda Randolph, C. Lillian Randolph, D. Lou Lubin. Marlon Hurt was the first to play Beulah. Who was the last? A. Bob Corley, B. Amanda Randolph, C. Lillian Randolph, D. Lou Lubin. Question 9. 2 actors held the role of Lieutenant Walt Levinson on Richard Diamond, Private Detective. Ed Begley Sr. was first. Who was the last? Was he A. Arthur Q. Bryan, B. Parley Bear, C. Raymond Burr, or D. Ted DeCorsia? 2 actors held the role of Lieutenant Walt Levinson on Richard Diamond, Private Detective. Ed Begley Sr. was first. Who was the last? A. Arthur Q. Bryan, B. Parley Bear, C. Raymond Burr, or D. Ted DeCorsia? And last but not least, question 10. 6 men played the role of Johnny Dollar on radio broadcasts. The first was Charles Russell. Mandel Kramer was the last. Who was number 3? A. Edmund O'Brien, B. Bob Reddick, C. Bob Bailey, or D. John Lund? Again, 6 men played the role of Johnny Dollar on radio broadcasts. The first was Charles Russell, Mandel Kramer the last. Who was number 3? A. Edmund O'Brien, B. Bob Reddick, C. Bob Bailey, or D. John Lund? And again, thanks to Frank for the quiz, and I think we'll just leave it up until we give the answers at the end.
Yes, I think I figured out I didn't make you co-host, so I will do that so you can
Do you want to?
display it.
Okay, thanks.
Oh. Thank you very much, Kelly. So now we come to, I think, the big draw of the evening, Ms. Stevens, who went on a radio road trip, another one, and these are always lively and interesting and wonderful. Sally, do you have visuals that you need to display? All right, let me make you a co-host. Confirm, and while I'm at it, all right, accept your mute.
Okay, I'm
You are.
figuring out pulling up my screen.
Go to
Okay.
share screen.
Figuring out the share screen.
There's a little square that
There it
says
is.
share. Yay.
All right. Making sure I have the right thing. Okay.
Looks good.
And let me get it on slideshow. Okay. Nope. Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Because I can't see you. So just making sure. All right. Wonderful. Well, yes, I did go on another road trip, but I didn't intend for it to be a radio road trip. These things just happen when I travel. I just happen to find all these radio connections when I travel. But this one sort of lent itself to radio when I went on a road trip last summer. I went drove the entire historic Route 66 with, I call her my sister. She's my best friend, has been since college. We were college roommates, and we have been talking about doing this road trip ever since the Cars movie came out. And you'll see why that connection is important. And so we've been talking about doing this road trip forever, and we both turned 40 last year. And so we decided that this was going to be the year we were going to do it. And we're both teachers, so we decided right away in the summer we were going to take our road trip of Route 66. And now I'm going to take you on an abbreviated radio road trip through Route 66. Oops, maybe if I can, there we go. So here's just a historic map. We did go the entire way through Chicago to Santa Monica. And we did take a trip through to get to Chicago. I thought about including it. We went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. It was pretty awesome, but that might be a road trip for another day. So a little bit of history before we get started about Route 66. So Route 66 was actually designated as part of the U.S. numbered highway system in 1926 to run from Chicago, Illinois to Los Angeles, California. And up to that point, the route had just been monitored kind of state by state and marked by little stones and on the side of the roads, and it was mostly just unpaved roads running across the country, and there was mostly just trail systems. And so Route 66 was one of the new highway routes that was created in an effort to encourage this longer interstate travel, and now they wanted to establish these roads and make them numbered across the states so that they would be easier to follow and easier to map out, because states would change how they designated roads. And so you could be traveling on one road and then cross into a different state. You're still on that road and all of a sudden it has a different name, which I'm sure many of us have noticed. That still happens when we travel, but this way at least the number would be consistent and people would be able to travel easier. So it does make sense. So it was designated in 1926, and only 11 miles were paved for the first few years. It was fully paved by 1938, and Route 66 was actually the first fully paved highway in the United States. Now, in 1927, the U.S. Highway 66 Association was created, and it was led by a gentleman named Cyrus Avery, and he's nicknamed the father of Route 66. And this group promoted the paving of the route. It promoted tourism, maintenance of the road, and encouraged travel along the route. And it really helped establish Route 66 as a premier travel route across the country for many years. And it called Route 66 the Main Street of America, which is one of its main nicknames that it's still called today. One of its other nicknames, which you may be familiar with, is the Mother Road. And this nickname came from The Grapes of Wrath, which was written by John Steinbeck, published in 1939. So the story actually highlights the travel of migrants who are escaping the Dust Bowl states and heading west to California. And Route 66 became that main travel route. And they thought they were heading towards California, where it might be more prosperous, where there was more work. Whether it was remained to be seen for those of you who may have read or seen the film of The Grapes of Wrath, or potentially have heard the NBC University Theater presentation from January 1949, our first radio connection. And I do have a little clip here. Let's make sure I have share sound. And give me a thumbs up if you can hear.
Good to the playmates. And we can keep the family together.
The sound is not so good, Sally.
Little houses among trees.
Still not very good.
Sound not too good?
No.
I can skip it. It's just a clip from it was just a 3-minute clip I cut out from the Grapes of Wrath performance. And in the first, you can find it on archive.org. You can find a number of places this performance. It's over an hour, or about an hour. And in the first like 12 minutes, it immediately references Route 66. And so they talk about, you have Ma talking to the family about, we were getting ready to go. We were going to leave without you. And then he arrives back from prison and, okay, time to sell the stuff. And then the narrator jumps in and they loaded the truck and headed on 66. 66 was the road of migrants. And then, so that was just a little clip of that. All right. Moving on. Route 66 actually is not highlighted very often on radio. I was kind of disappointed to find that in my research. I thought for such a main highway and for such a main roadway, that it would have featured more during this time period, but really it did not. So there is only one specific Route 66 reference I could find of Route 66 on radio, and it was from the ABC Mystery Theater from an episode called Homicide Highway or Death Rides on Route 66, and it was from 1953. The only thing that I could find that referenced Route 66. So that is your new homework assignment, class, to see if you can find any interesting radio references to Route 66 as you're listening. Now, many other programs do feature road trips, and this is, of course, something that Route 66 and this new interstate travel sparked. So that certainly kind of ties in a little bit. One of the most prominent that kept coming up for my road trip research is an episode from the Aldrich family in 1940, where Henry and Homer take a cross-country road trip. However, there's no audio of that episode that I could locate anywhere. But it is in the researchers' files.
Excuse
Now,
me, Sally, we're not getting any screen. You have paused your screen sharing.
Oh,
Is
sorry.
that intentional? Oh, there we go. Thank
Can
you.
you see me now?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I didn't mean to do that. Go back. Wrong way. This way. Okay. So probably the most kind of lasting impact in radio of Route 66 would be the song. Everyone knows the song. Get Your Kicks on Route 66. It was written by Bobby Troup, and it was written when he and his wife were taking a cross-country road trip from Pennsylvania to California in 1941. And it was originally recorded by Nat King Cole and the King Cole Trio in 1946. It became so popular, they re-recorded it in 1956, 1961, and the King Cole Trio, Nat King Cole, made so many radio appearances. Almost every single time they appeared on radio after this song became a hit, they performed this song. So this has as often shows up on Musical Variety or when they appear as guests on programs. And this song was actually covered by tons of other artists, like immediately. Some of the earliest ones I found, there's a country version, which was on the Bill Ring show as early as 1948. It was discussed and performed on the Here's to Veterans program, which was aired 1946 to 47. And then Bing Crosby recorded a version that he performed often with the Andrews Sisters on his program as well. And I did have the original song to play. I'm going to skip over that if the sound is going to be a little wonky. All right. Now, Route 66 has had quite an impact on culture beyond radio, so just touch on it just a little bit since we are radio focused. But there was a television series, the Route 66 TV show, ran from 1960 to 1964, and it followed two men traveling cross country in their Corvette, but not always traveling on Route 66. So kind of a strange show, but still kind of interesting, and promoting this idea of interstate travel and kind of this open road mentality. So it still kind of went along with that road tripping idea. And as I said, the Disney film Cars featured Route 66 architecture, locations, history, and the impact of Route 66 and the shift from the new interstate highway system. So when Route 66 was bypassed by Interstate 40. And Route 66 also helped spark the fast food craze. The very first McDonald's opened along Route 66 in San Bernardino in 1940. So I mean, it's really left quite a legacy. Now on to the specific road trip. Started off in Chicago, which is the start, or is it the end of the route? Well, it's actually both. It's kind of funny because depending on which direction you go through Chicago, you can see the begin and end signs of the route, which is pretty funny. You have to loop underneath the L here, which is the middle picture, and then you can see both signs. So of course I had to capture both of them, even though we were just starting our trip in Chicago, had to see the end as well. Now, Chicago, of course, has quite a connection to radio history. I mean, Chicago was a booming, transforming cultural and economic hub in the 1920s, so it really makes sense that with the dawn of radio and interstate travel, Chicago was just in the middle of everything, literally in the middle of the country. By 1923, Chicago had 20 radio stations, and the major ones, and some of the ones that still are, WGN, WBBM, and WMAQ. Now, WGN, I'd like to talk a little specifically about. It was founded in 1922, and it was taken over by the Tribune newspaper in 1924. It was rebranded for the world's greatest newspaper, hence the WGN call sign, which I thought was kind of fun. It actually was one of the founding stations of the Mutual Broadcasting System in 1934. And Mutual was, of course, as we know, a rival to NBC and CBS. And this was the home to The Lone Ranger, The Shadow, The Adventures of Superman. And it also is where they nationally broadcast several NFL and MLB games. There's also many prominent radio programs that started in Chicago, and then many of them actually ended up moving to Los Angeles later, but some of these actually started in Chicago. Amos and Andy, Fibber McGee and Molly, Lights Out, National Barn Dance, Vic and Sade, Quiz Kids, Don McNeil's Breakfast Club, Captain Midnight, The First Nighter Program, and Jack Armstrong, All-American Boy. So lots happening in Chicago. Well, we moved all the way through Illinois rather rapidly and moved into Missouri, and the Route 66 goes from St. Louis to Joplin. And in St. Louis, you can see the famous arch. And for those baseball fans, unfortunately, if you're sorry, I have to show you the championship of the St. Louis Cardinals. I mean, good for them. So, but they have quite a bit of radio history as well. Their station KMOX was founded in 1925, and it is still on the air today. It was actually founded by a group of businessmen. They formed the Voice of St. Louis Incorporated. Originally, they wanted KVSL as their call sign for that Voice of St. Louis, but they ended up getting their backup, which is the KMOX, which stood for Missouri, MO, and then their first broadcast date was on Christmas Eve, so the X. And that's how that came to be. And it became one of the very first affiliates with CBS, and then ended up being bought by CBS in the 1930s. And it broadcast the St. Louis Cardinal baseball games to most of the country. And then its claim to fame is that it became the very first full-time talk radio station in the United States. Kind of an interesting fun fact. We made a side stop in Carthage, Missouri, and we stopped at the 66 Drive-In Theater, which is still in operation. It was built in 1949. It's a single-screen drive-in theater, and they show 2 films for one price, $10 per car, on weekends, April through September. So the very first movie that it ever showed was Two Guns from Texas. But Esther and I, we went and saw How to Train Your Dragon, because that's what they were showing last summer, and that was our choice. But what I thought was particularly fun and made our radio connection is that you had to tune to your radio so that you could listen to the movie. And I managed to get a picture of the screen as it came up. You had to tune to 106.5 so you could listen to the movie. No more little speakers to put on the side of your car. I was a little bummed about that. But at least it had a radio connection. We moved on, and there's a tiny little bit of Route 66 that goes through Kansas. Literally, it's like, bloop, it just touches the edge of Kansas, and then you move into Oklahoma. And I'd like to feature Tulsa, Sapulpa, which is a suburb of Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. So here's a little bit of Tulsa and Sapulpa. This is a picture of Tulsa along Route 66. And then this was I just had to show you this. Sapulpa is the proud home to the world's largest gas pump. And there it is. You have now seen it. Sapulpa's claim to fame. Yep. But Tulsa has quite a bit of claim to fame for radio. Actually, at the station KTUL introduced Patti Page to radio audiences in 1945. She actually became their featured radio performer at a local 15-minute radio program that was sponsored by Page Milk Company when she graduated high school. And they called her Patti Page as sort of a reference to the sponsor because her birth name is Clara Ann Fowler. So maybe a good stage name that she went with. But she was discovered at KTUL by the manager of the Jimmy Joy Band. And then she ended up singing and touring with them for a little bit before she ended up singing with Benny Goodman and then was picked up by Mercury Records. And the rest is music history. And speaking of music history, Tulsa is the home of Tulsa Sound, which is in music a mix of blues, blues rock, country, rock and roll, and swamp pop sounds. And it originated in the 1950s, and some people might recognize it a little bit more from the mainstream rock and pop of Eric Clapton's cover of swamp rock J.J. Cale's After Midnight. Many people might be more familiar with that song. but the most famous of the Tulsa sound to break into LA's music scene was Leon Russell. He performed with Ricky Nelson, Phil Spector, Gary Lewis, Jan and Dean, Joe Cocker, and many of his songs are actually covered by other artists, and he is the one who initially signed Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers to his label, Shelter Records. So kind of an interesting little music radio history there too. Now in Oklahoma City, the oldest station in Oklahoma is WKY, and it's actually been an active station since 1920. And it was a member of the NBC Red Network during the Golden Age. And by 1929, it was airing all NBC affiliate material. And then everything else, it was producing right there, making its own programming. So it was really trying to operate a lot like how big stations were on the coasts, how they were doing their own programming and then broadcasting it out. They originated dark fantasy from 1941 to 42. And one of the most famous broadcasters of all time, I think I can safely say, Walter Cronkite got his start at WKY starting in 1937 as a play-by-play announcer of University of Oklahoma football games. So now, one of the really neat spots in Oklahoma City that we stopped at was the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. Now, this place was amazing and very cool, worth the stop if you're ever out there. It included Native and Western themed art, historical objects related to cowboys and Western life. There was a history of and a Hall of Fame of rodeo, Great Westerners Hall of Fame, and a whole hall of Western performers. So these are just a couple of images I took from the museum. I thought was fun. There was an entire Western mock town, which you can kind of see in this upper left corner. I show a picture here. It was very Dodge City-like. It had a U.S. Marshal's office, a saloon, a church, a hotel, a mercantile, and a printer. And you could walk in and see these little buildings and take pictures and kind of explore. It was really a fun place. But the Western Performers Gallery was really exciting because it featured a lot of memorabilia from Western performances throughout time, starting all the way back with Wild Bill Hickok, Annie Oakley, up through John Wayne, of course, Robert Redford, up Barbara Stanwyck. It covered music, radio, film, television, and you can see here on the bottom just a little bit of the Gunsmoke memorabilia that was featured in the television version of the Gunsmoke program. And then also you can see they had quite a bit of early radio memorabilia as well, and a lot of early like transcription discs and 78s and things like that as well in their collection. These are a few more images from the museum. This one on the left has memorabilia from Tom Mix films, Hopalong Cassidy, Gene Autry, Roy Rogers in here. I believe you can even see a little Howdy Doody. Is he down there? And then you can see, Tom Mix is over here on the right, I believe. I think my screen's a little covered. And then on the bottom, an entire panel all about Will Rogers. Will Rogers there. All right. Moving out of Oklahoma, you go cross into just the panhandle, just that little square top of Texas. And we made a stop in Shamrock, Texas, which is the home of Bill Mack, who is a radio personality some people may be familiar with. We stopped at the U Drop Inn, which is a classic Art Deco Conoco gas station, and cafe. And now it's a museum, and it has some historical markers at this location because Shamrock is the home of Bill Mack, who was a country music songwriter and famous DJ. And so they kind of put everything sort of in their little central spot here in the town. So a little bit about Bill Mack. He began broadcasting in 1950 at the local station KEVA. And by 1958, he had actually made the first recording of his song Blue, which would become much later a big hit for LeAnn Rimes. And in 1966, he wrote the song Drinking Champagne, which would later again become a big hit for George Strait. He spent over 30 years on the Clear Channel station WBAP and became a very popular trucker DJ because he would have a program that they would run on, and it would run during the day, and then they would also run it again at night. And so that's how he got the nickname of the Midnight Cowboy. Then he did move to satellite radio in 2001 and was there for 10 years before retiring. And this is some pictures. You can see this is the U Drop Inn, which some of you, if you have seen the Cars movie, might recognize this because this was the direct inspiration for Ramon's his station and everything in the Cars movie. So kind of cool. All right. Then one of my absolute favorite spots, if you couldn't guess by my t-shirt, because I've been there, done that, and had to buy the t-shirt. I liked it so much. We made a special trip when we were in Gallup, New Mexico. We stayed at a very special place, the El Rancho Hotel. Whoops, there we go. There we go. The El Rancho was built in 1936 by R.E. Griffith, who was the brother to D.W. Griffith, the filmmaker. Now, it opened in 1937, and it still operates as a hotel today, which is pretty awesome. But it served as a hotel for film stars when they were filming in Gallup and the surrounding areas. And actually, over 100 films were shot in that area between the 1930s and 40s. So that place was sort of kind of built especially for this purpose, and then expanded to be a nice spot for people as interstate travel expanded along Route 66. Now, the location features an extensive native art collection, film memorabilia collection, and even has a hidden room behind a bookshelf. So that was fun to find. Now, some of the guests that stayed here include, you can see a few on the list there, some big names: John Wayne, Jack Benny, Lucille Ball, Katharine Hepburn, Jimmy Stewart, Gene Autry, Fred McMurray, Rita Hayworth, Errol Flynn, Alan Ladd, Humphrey Bogart, James Cagney, Joel McRae, Joseph Cotton, the Marx Brothers, Tom Mix, William Bendix, W.C. Fields, Ida Lupino, Ronald Reagan, Mae West, and that's just naming a few. Yes, I literally took a picture of every single door because every door has a marker with who stayed in that room. However, I'm not going to subject you to all of that. I will give you one sample. There's your sample of what the door markers look like. And I gave you Jack Benny's. And that is what the hotel looks like. And it does have its historical marker there. My favorite view is the lobby. It has an upstairs kind of lobby, which has a lot of the memorabilia and a lot of photographs. Photographs of, I think, just about everyone who has ever stayed there, who had been in a film, like for film purposes, is all on the upstairs, and it circles this lobby, which is really just stunning, absolutely stunning. And even more exciting, it has a working vintage elevator, so accessible. And you can see on the side here, we stayed in room 223, and that was the Susan Hayward room. And she was in Rawhide. She stayed here when she was in Rawhide, I guess. And there you go. So that was the little panel. Every room also has a little panel about what the room, why it's named for that person. Pretty cool. All right, now I'm going to skip us forward a few days. I'm going to take us ahead in the road trip and take us in to California. So the end of the trail originally was Los Angeles, downtown proper. Now, the original end of the route is that sign right there, that little marker. It's at this intersection, so you kind of have to go fast, or you have to figure out how to park at this intersection really fast so that you can get a picture of this sign at the stoplight. Luckily, we got stopped at the stoplight so I could get a picture, and then I took another one because you notice it's green. But this is the original end of Route 66 in the historic theater district of LA from 1926 to 1939. This is where the road ended. And this is also, you can kind of see some of the historic theaters that are still in that area. But today, the end is at Santa Monica Pier, which actually is right there at the Pacific Ocean. And so now you can see my sister Esther and I, we made it to the end of the trail. We made it across the whole 2,448 miles of historic Route 66. Now the official end at Santa Monica. And gee, I don't know if Los Angeles has any radio connections. I'm not sure. Oh, just kidding. Well, it does. Of course, it certainly does. And KNX is the oldest surviving station in Los Angeles, and it's actually the 7th oldest station in the entire United States, which is pretty incredible, especially since it's still on the air. And it was one of the CBS flagship stations. And some of our famous broadcasters that came out of KNX, Steve Allen, Bob Barker, Pat Sajak, all worked there, just to name a couple. It was the home of the national broadcast for some of our most popular and well-known programs. Jack Benny, Bing Crosby, Burns and Allen, Bergen and McCarthy, Gene Autry. It was the home of many programs: The Whistler, Suspense, Lux Radio, Gunsmoke, Armis Brooks, Escape, Fort Laramie, Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, and lots more. So it really kind of ties it all up in California. And we stayed for literally a night and turned around and came home. No, we did, but we came home a very different way. And that is a road trip for a different day. The end.
Wow, that is just an amazing trip, Sally. I found myself quite jealous. It just sounds wonderful. Great stuff.
Fabulous.
Yeah, really
Very good.
wonderful. Thank you so much
Thank you.
for sharing all that with us. Yes, the clap.
Could I add a couple of things there related to it?
I have a question, Sally. You talked about the Cowboy Museum in Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
Is that in any way connected to the Will Rogers Museum, or are they totally separate?
The Will Rogers Museum, I think it used to be called that. And so now they have changed the name. Yeah. It used to be the Will Rogers Museum, but now they have changed it to the National Cowboy. Yes, I know that from my museum days, actually.
Bert, do you have your hand up?
A couple of things there. Yeah, I've actually had the privilege of being on part of Route 66 in the Joplin area some time back. Then it was just another side road, but a portion of Route 66 that I think was in Oklahoma was taken up and is now in the Museum of American History down on the mall for anybody who wants to go, actually go and see some of the actual Route 66. And then if I could bring up one other thing that's kind of related here. Some of you perhaps have heard about or heard the announcement that CBS Radio News is going off the air May 22nd. And of course, that includes some of the, I mean, it's on some of the stations that were covered in here. KNX for one, KMOX, another, as far as I know, still KMOX on another. But anyway, I just want to bring that up because CBS Radio News goes way back. I mean, that's part of this.
Yeah.
And on the 17th, the big broadcast is going to have a special program salute to CBS Radio News.
Okay.
Thank you for that. Brian, you had a question or your hand was up at one point. No? Okay. So somebody had a question that they just sort of glued. Wayne?
Yes, Sally, during your extensive trip, the Hotel El Rancho, was that actually on Route 66 itself, or was it a side?
No, it's right there in Gallup, and 66 goes right through Gallup, and yep, it's right in there. So
other than the Hotel El Rancho, did you find any other motels on Route 66 to stay at, or you had to stay in larger areas?
oh no, we actually stayed at quite a few historic hotels if we were able to. I wish I had realized that the Boots court had just reopened, so it had been it was under renovation because, as you know, this is the centennial year of Route 66, so a lot of spots have been trying to like do a lot, and of course we went in the 99th year, but you know that's okay, we're okay with that. The Boots Auto Court in which is in Missouri, I believe, had done a big renovation. But what's cool about it is on the sign it says it says Boots Auto Court, and it's got all this, you know, cool Art Deco and this neon lights, and then underneath the Boots sign it says radio in every room. Yes, sign me up. I want to stay there. A place that has a radio in every room. I just thought that was so funny, but I did not realize it had finished its renovation, so I guess I just have to go back.
What you really didn't realize is that the radio broadcast was in reverse. The sound was originating in your room and being broadcast outward.
I don't know about that. That'd be a little much.
John Abbott?
Trip, Sally,
At the
thank
risk
you.
of committing a major heresy and being kicked out of the club for doing things unforetold, PBS has a program called Places to Love, hosted by Samantha Brown, and she did a series this summer where she drove, and you probably bumped up across her on the road. She went from Chicago all the way to the Santa Monica Pier, showing some of the lesser known spots. Yeah, well worth looking at.
Cool.
You can see what you missed.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not sure she missed very much, John.
We kept a really cool, we found a really fun app that's called Track My Trip, and it allowed you to upload like a picture and kind of put a pin in a spot on this virtual map. And so you could share it with people and kind of let them know of your progress on your trip. So of course we did that with our families and friends and things like that. And it was really nice because then we could also go back and remember where we had been. And so now we have a really detailed kind of little trail of all of these places that we stopped at. And yeah, a couple of the places like Boots that I'd be like, oh, I want to go back there, or, you know, found another drive-in that's been restored now for the centennial or things like that. So yeah, lots of cool things happening for Route 66 right now.
Thank you, Sally. Kelly, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. A great presentation, Sally. And just a question, how much Route 66 merchandise was for sale along the way?
What? Merchandise?
How much did you buy?
Oh, I mean, so much. How much did I purchase, you ask? So much. I haven't even truly, I have not even sorted all of my souvenirs and everything from that trip because I'm like, I need a shadow box and I need a whole shelf just dedicated to this trip. And really, because there's just so much of it.
Excellent. Okay.
You do.
Excellent. Excellent.
Richard, you had your hand up?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thanks for taking me along on the trip, Sally. It was really fun. And one thing, and when you were talking about St. Louis and the Cardinals broadcast, that was a very famous radio character. I guess probably you all know was Harry Carey, and and of course he was famous as the broadcaster, but he did a lot of other radio. And I also wondered, you mentioned that there was the first talk show that was in St. Louis with that radio station. And I wondered if he had been, because he was such a voluble person. He talked very fast and a lot and very loud. It's really memorable if you've ever heard him speak, you'll never forget it. And it seems like he's someone who very naturally would have turned over into an all talk show.
I honestly don't know right off the top of my head, but it would not surprise me. I just couldn't, as a Nationals fan, I just couldn't do a lot of research about anything Cardinals related. It just, and having lived on the Kansas City side, the whole thing just felt wrong.
Well, my family thing in the Cardinals is my father would refer to two of his grandchildren as the Gas House Gang.
Well, there it is.
John William, you had your hand up next.
Good evening. I just want a two-part question. First one, follow up from Kelly's acquisition question. It was not a question of what did you buy, but it's just guess how much money did you save by getting certain things in bulk discount or something like that. But I'm glad I got your I'm glad I got your presentation. One of the things I want to get a sense of if you saw these things is the exhibits and stuff that you saw. Did you get that sense of being sort of closer to the time frame of when those programs aired and such? Because that's part of the atmosphere to seeing these exhibits and sites. You know what I'm saying? It's old time radio, and that experience takes you back to a different time, and that's always been the most important part of it for me. This is why I kind of enjoy this club.
I mean, personally, yes. I would say yes, but I think even more beyond a different time, I think truly the entire trip just felt like a real connection. And it was really nice to explore the country and see places I had never been. And I love to go to national parks and I love road trips. And that's something that my sister and we love to do together. And I actually played some radio for her while we were driving. And when we came across a place, also played some podcasts, so like some more modern things as well. So it was really kind of fun to be like, hey, this is related to this. You should check this out. And she's like, put it on, let's listen. And so, we really we get along so great. There are a few people in the world that you can go on a 3-week car trip and still be best friends. And then when you get home, be like, okay, where are we going next? There are very few people on this planet that I think many people could say they could do that. And with her and I, we are, that's how we were. We were great. We had a wonderful time, and we got home. We were like, okay, where are we going next time?
And I asked my question the way it is because when I was younger, at the turn of the last century, and my father and I would do road trips.
Yeah.
Part of the fun experience is because the TV was analog. There was none of the streaming stuff. So it was the car radio. What did you hear? Yeah. What were the local stations? Sitting around the campfire with that radio station and stuff like that. It's a much more communal experience. That's why I asked you.
Yeah. Oh no, I completely understand. I think for us it was more of a connection with like place and time. And we, kind of I was so excited to find all the radio connections. And anytime she saw something radio in a museum, she's like, "Did you get a picture of that?" So, it was really I think just kind of yeah, I don't know. It was amazing. I can't describe anything except it was joyous.
That's great. Lauren, you have your hand up.
Yes, that sounds like such a great trip, and I really would like to do that now. Two questions. First, in Chicago, did you see there's the radio or the Museum of Radio Broadcast Communications?
We did not get to spend a lot of time in Chicago. I know that it exists, but I had to kind of make concessions.
That's fair. That's fair.
We
I mean,
were
it's a really
starting there.
small museum,
And
but
since
it's cool.
we were already stopping in Cleveland to go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, it was like, okay, I can let it go on this time,
Yeah.
And we
No.
literally were like getting there and then going. So,
Oh, I get it. No, it's a small museum. It's worth a visit, but it is also, I think the choices you made were probably best. But also at the hotel, your El Rancho there, is it haunted too?
I don't know if it is. I was kind of hoping for some stories. There's a guy there. I think his name was, oh my gosh, was it Lee? It was either Leon or Leroy, and he was like the historian. And so like there was always someone around him, and he was always telling a story. So every time we walked through the lobby, I was like, "What is he saying?
Yeah.
And so I would kind of catch like a little bit of a story here and there of just he would know everything about everything
Yeah.
that happened. And it was really, really amazing. But I mean, maybe we were just tired. We just slept right through.
Fair enough.
Need to save
Thank
something for
you.
later for another
Yes.
trip. Wayne Bonig.
Yeah. Sally, you didn't give any mention to the little town of Shamrock, Texas,
I
Yes.
did.
despite giving a very
Yes, she
quick.
did.
Did she?
She was an extensive
With
period.
Bill Mack. I did.
Okay.
Oh,
I
yeah.
apologize
drop
because I
in.
was also going to mention when I speak more that my connection dropped for a minute.
Oh,
Ah,
Okay, you did cover Shamrock, Texas.
oh, she did. And you'll be able to catch it on the video.
I
on
think
the
that must have been
YouTube.
while I was trying to reconnect.
Right.
I did have a
were you
little,
concerned about
tech
the You
problem.
Drop In or Bill Mack?
Okay.
Was
You
that
mentioned it was the inspiration for Radiator Springs in the
Oh,
movie Cars.
yes, and that is
Okay,
why
we're good. We're
You
good.
Drop In exactly is yes. And the picture that has the actual car like
Mhm.
model whatever in it was Rock Cafe, which
Yes.
is in Oklahoma, and that the owner of the Rock Cafe was the inspiration for Sally. And we were in the gentleman Crazy Legs in Kansas. We got to talk to someone who knew him. He is the inspiration for Mater. So there is so much along. It was really amazing, and that's why. And that's how
I did the street view on Google Earth, and it was just like, wow, this is real.
it was pretty cool.
Okay, we're good.
Do we have any other questions or observations, curiosities?
And
Wow.
that was a very large gas pump.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, that one I just was kind of I had to.
Looks suspiciously like a lighthouse, so that was interesting.
Well, I was
Light
like,
a match.
can we go pump gas from it? And they're like, no.
Probably just as well. That is just great. Anybody else before we move on to the answers to the quiz? Well, Sally, I'm looking forward to the next road trip. They're always lively and wonderful and informative and colorful, and I don't know what else I can say, but it's great stuff. Thank you for
Thanks very
exposing
much.
us to that.
Well, thanks for joining me on the road, everybody. I appreciate it.
Great stuff. So now we can move on to the answers to the quiz, and Kelly now has the keys to the kingdom.
I do. Okay, so I'm going to end the poll now.
Uh-huh.
And okay, and now sharing results.
Yay.
Can you all
Thank
see them?
Yes.
Okay, excellent. Okay. Okay, so first, last, and Mr. In Between, the answers. For me, question one, Al Hodge was the first to play the Green Hornet, and Jack McCarthy was the last. Who was the 18-year-old in between? Nobody thought it was Mandel Kramer, which was very good because it was not. Most people thought it was Bill Johnstone, a few Robert Hall, a couple of Fred Foy. The four of you who said Robert Hall got it right. It was indeed Robert Hall. Oh, question two. Oh, good job, Frank, because this everyone got some votes for this one. Agnes Moorehead was Lamont Cranston's first leading lady. Who was the last? And as I say, everyone got a few votes. And even though Margot Lane, it was not Margot Stevenson, it was actually Gertrude Warner. So congratulations to the three of you who knew Gertrude Warner. Question three, Mary Lee Robb was the last to play Gildy's niece. Who was the first? One thought it was Piper Laurie, a couple thought Shirley Mitchell, a few thought Louise Erickson. With this one, the half of you, 7 out of 14 who said it was Lorene Tuttle are correct. It was indeed Lorene Tuttle was the last to play Gildy's niece. Question four, Barton Yarborough was Joe Friday's first partner. Ben Alexander was the last. Which of the following was one of those in between? Several votes for Stacey Harris, several votes for Harry Morgan. Less popular options were William Conrad and Martin Milner. The answer, I would say appropriately, is Martin Milner, not only because it's the right answer, but because Martin Milner was one of the stars of the TV show Route 66. So unintentionally continuing a theme of the evening. Okay. Question five. Larry Thor was the last to play Danny Clover when Broadway Is My Beat moved to LA. Who was the first to play the role in New York? Again, some votes for everyone. Several went for Frank Lovejoy. I think honestly that's who I would have chosen if I had participated. Lawrence Zerbe, Stats Cotsworth, and Anthony Ross all got some votes. One person had the correct answer. It was indeed Anthony Ross. Question six. Military service took Ezra Stone from his role as Henry Aldrich. After the war, he returned to the role. Who filled in between for Stone? Once again, some votes for everybody. Some votes for Jackie Kelk, Sam Edwards, Norman Tokar, and Tommy Cook. But once again, the least popular or the least guessed answer is the correct one. It was indeed Norman Tokar. So the two of you who voted for Norman Tokar, congratulations. Okay, question seven. As Nero Wolfe, Sidney Greenstreet went through several Archie Goodwins during the show's short run. Harry Bartell was the first, Lamont Johnson the last. Who was Archie in between? And of those who voted, almost half said it was Gerald Moore, almost half said it was Larry Dobkin, one said it was Wally Marr, no votes for Herb Ellis, and a trick question from Frank. The correct answer is all four of them played Archie Goodwin at some point. So whatever you guessed, you were right. Question eight. Marlon Hurt was the first to play Beulah. Who was the last? A vote for Bob Corley, a couple of votes for Amanda Randolph, many votes for Lillian Randolph, no votes for Lubin. And once again, a trick question from Frank. It's not that all four of them are correct, but that Amanda Randolph and Lillian Randolph took turns during the last season of the show. So either of those answers would be considered correct. Question nine, two actors held the role of Lieutenant Walt Levinson on Richard Diamond, Private Detective. Ed Begley Sr. was the first. Who was the last? Once again, every option had at least a couple of votes, a couple for Arthur Q. Bryan and Parley Bear, a few for Ted DeCorsia. The most popular option was Raymond Burr. But once again, the correct answer was one of the ones that got the fewest votes. The correct answer is A, Arthur Q. Bryan. Last but not least, 6 men played the role of Johnny Dollar on radio broadcasts. The first was Charles Russell, Mandel Kramer the last. Who was number 3? Once again, everyone got at least, some votes. 1 vote for Bob Reddick, 3 for Bob Bailey, 4 for Edmund O'Brien, 6 for John Lund. And the most popular answer in this case was the correct answer, that John Lund was the 3rd Johnny Dollar. So a great quiz. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to Frank for creating the quiz. And good job all. And I will now stop sharing.
Thank you so much, Lauren. That was just great. And thank you to Frank, a classic Frank quiz. Tricky and clever and interesting and informative and educational. So what more could one possibly ask for? Thank you, Frank. So this is so far things have been going very nicely. I'm particularly grateful for that tonight. No technical hiccups, except those of my own making. So this concludes the the public portion of the program. Of course,